Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Thank you for joining me today, May 17th, 2023. And oh my gosh, do we have a great show for you today. I am being joined by Nzondi, and this man is so much fun to talk to. We talked about Universal Studio monster movies and creature features. We talked about his work on several TV shows as an actor stand-in. We talked about his work as a musician. We also talked about his years spent as an educator in the New York City school system. And we really let our nerd flags fly whenever we delved into our mutual love for Star Trek. And of course, being a book podcast, we talked about his books. And you are going to love what he has to say. If you love horror books, you are going to want to check out the books by Nzondi. Trust me on this. We had so much fun talking that our interview actually went almost 2 hours. It was so much fun. I was even laughing again listening to it as I was doing the editing. It was fantastic. I have been trying my hardest to not do like 2 and 3 part interview episodes anymore because a lot of people will come in and listen to the first part, but not as many people come in and listen to the second part. So I've been trying to do just 1 episode interviews, but this one, there was so much good information and back and forth. The conversation was so good. I do not want to lose that much of it. So we are going to do a 2-parter for this one. So please, please make sure that you come back for the second half next Wednesday because it is just as good, if not better, as what is going to be played today. You're going to love it. I promise you. If you love horror books, this is an author to watch. So without any further blather from me, please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, Nzondi, also known as Ase Antonio Hall. I was doing a little bit of research on you before we set up this interview, and you are quite the master of several different creative endeavors. You started out as an educator. You were director of education for New York City schools and the Sylvan Learning Center. You are a rock singer, a songwriter, a producer, an actor. You have done instructional fitness videos and books. You are an award-winning writer. You are the first African-American writer to ever win the Bram Stoker Award for Superior Achievement in Young Adult Fiction. What could you possibly do next?
Just please pinch me because I feel like it's not even me. It really doesn't even feel like it's been me. Something cosmic has worked through me because I really don't understand how that stuff has happened, truly.
Now, you have sort of a pen name, stage name. I'm not sure how you would classify it since you do so many different things.
Yeah.
You are known as Nzondi.
Yeah. Nzondi is actually my real middle name. My full name is Asimandisi Nzondi Hall. And the first 3 letters of my first name is Ace, A-C-E. So that's where the Ace comes from.
So where did Antonio come from?
Okay. I will tell you the PG version.
Okay.
So, and everyone can fill in the blanks. So being that my real name is Asimandisi, and my last name is Hall, H-A-L-L, the pronunciation for ACE is not really Ace. It's supposed to be Ase, right?
Okay.
And my last name's Hall. So growing up, the kids would combine the Ase and the Hall and mispronounce it and come out sounding a little bit different. And they would tease me, as in jest, it was fun. So when I was in Spanish class in 9th grade, I said, I got to do something about this. So my Spanish teacher called me Antonio. That was my Spanish name in class. So I put the Antonio before the Hall. So it's Ace Antonio Hall. So even if you say Ase, you have the Antonio in there and you never mispronounce the Hall again. So it doesn't sound like Ase, whatever you might want to pronounce it as. So that's where the Antonio came from.
See, and I love it whenever I meet other authors who have a lot of legal names because I have five. It doesn't even fit on most things.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. I wanted to have those as many names as you have.
Hmm.
So around the same time that I adopted Antonio as, one of my names, I adopted some other names. So I became Asiman DC Antonio Apaco Nzondi Hall.
Oh, nice. You started out in education and you actually were making like a almost a six-figure salary
Yeah.
working as an educator. What
Yep.
would make you walk away from that?
First of all, I feel very privileged and really just I feel lucky to be able to do something like that because not everyone can do it. But, the reason is I just wasn't happy. I felt not that I wasn't happy, there was a void in me. There was a void, and that void was growing larger and larger and sucking the energy out of me. And one of my good friends had noticed that, and she said to me, "Hey, you're meant to be a creative. You got to create. You got to step out of the box and do it, feed your soul." And then that's what I did. And then I was a little bit younger, because when you're older, it doesn't matter. You do what you got to do to pay the bills and take care of your family.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit younger, and I was unhappy. So I made the decision to learn how to start writing novels because I did not really know, even though I had been an English teacher for a decade and I had been an educator for close to a decade and a half, and I had been a director of education for a few years. I did not know how to write novels. And I had a degree in screenwriting and directing. And screenwriting and writing novels is like walking and swimming. It's just two different
Hmm.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I have a friend who is a screenwriter and a director. And there's one of my books that I would like to try and turn into a screenplay and see if I can sell it for a limited series somewhere. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, you can do this." I'm like, I have no clue to where to even start. So he's going to help me with that
There you
because
go.
it is such a different format and such a different way of phrasing things to bring a different visual to your audience.
Yeah. And you got to get out of your own way because if you write novels, you get used to showing the full picture, what someone's thinking, what someone wants to do, and you write in the past for the most part. When you're writing a script, and if you're adapting your own script from a novel to a script, you have to remove yourself of that type of thinking because it's really about what does the audience see, and that takes away a lot of the narrative.
Hmm.
The person is doing, their own narration or something like that. That takes away a lot of the narrative, which could be almost 2/3 of the book. So it's a lot to kind of to take those holes. And you feel like when someone else does it to you, you feel like, no, this part is essential so you can know what the characters, so
Yeah.
you have to separate yourself from that. It's tough, but you definitely can do it. I did
Now, you've actually been doing a lot of work on television. I was checking out your IMDb page, and
it.
you have some incredible credits that you've done work as stand-in for a lot of amazing
Yeah,
shows, like Agent X, The Voice, The Oscars. You
yeah,
were on Unsolved, The Murders of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G.,
yeah.
and one of our favorite shows in this house, How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah. So I don't want to downplay it, but I mean, I am what I am. It was really cool to do those things. It doesn't compare to what Viola has done in her life as an actress. Working with her for 6 years and watching her was like watching a acting clinic because she's done so much theater and she studied the art. Now, I never really studied the art of acting like they have.
Hmm.
I was a stand-in, which for better or for worse is, or for lack of a better word, is more or less a rehearsal actor. We rehearse the setup, the lighting. We rehearse everything that the actor is going to do when they're actually filming so that the cameras and the lightings and electricians and everyone can get everything kind of set, so the actor doesn't spend hours doing that and then have to perform. So we're a rehearsal actor. And on How to Get Away with Murder, we learned all the lines, and every day we learn lines, and we do it because there was a lot of timing involved. It was a 3-camera show, so there was a lot of timing and movements that the cameras wanted to rehearse before the actors came on set and did their thing, which is technical. So it was really exciting and it was cool. But a lot of people make a lot more out of it than it really is. I think the best thing I've ever really, really done was when I was Vanessa Williams' boyfriend on a show called Desperate Housewives. I mean, I had my own little trailer. I sat next to Vanessa and we chatted it up all day long, but I didn't have any lines. But I was a special guest,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much the only thing really that I did at that level. Everything else was pretty much really cool features and stuff like that. But you still get excited when you see someone on a movie screen or TV screen, you see a friend featured.
What did you work on with Cicely Tyson?
Yes. I just told the story yesterday. So Cicely was Viola Davis's mother on How to Get Away with Murder. So the cool thing about that is my father worked with her ex-husband, Miles Davis. My father wrote the lyrics to a song called So What, Miles Davis's song, So What? Miles Davis walked off the stage, So What? Ba-da-da-da-da-da, which is a huge jazz classic.
Mm-hmm.
And the people on set knew that, shout out to Courtney who introduced me. She was the AD, first AD who introduced me to Cicely. And I was driving to set and I heard someone on the radio say, hey, guess what? We just heard that Cicely Tyson's going to play Viola Davis's mother on How to Get Away with Murder. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I got on set and it was quiet. It was so quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And it had never really been like that. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I saw her sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, she's done it tonight. And she did a scene. And, the grips are like the really tough guys production.
Mm-hmm.
They push the carts and lift the heavy loads. And, they do a lot of the cool stuff to make Hollywood the way it is. And grips are tough guys. There were grips with tears in their eyes because her performance that she shot was so emotional that it touched everyone. Just an amazing experience. And so when they introduced her to me, we hit it off right away. She was telling me stories about Miles Davis when she was married to him. And, she was really excited to know that my father had wrote the song. And it was really cool. And we laughed and we chopped it up. And it was just really a great experience. So that's how I was able to kind of talk to and work with Cicely Tyson. It was really a dream come true.
She is one of those people that I kind of consider her theater royalty. There's nobody who can really compare to her body of work.
No one. And you know what? When she's on stage, you can't call her Cicely Tyson. You have to call her whatever her character's name is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you call her. No one called her Cicely Tyson. I forget her character's name on the show, but if it was Miss Mademoiselle, that's what we
Mm-hmm.
called her, Miss Bell.
Very method.
Yeah. So it was amazing. Yep.
So now you've also worked as a writer for Kings of NoHo.
You know about that.
I'm very good at research.
Wow. Yeah, I try to do things where, I'm always trying to be like the first at doing things. I've always been that way. And I had an idea to do like this TV series, 1 minute TV series. I forgot what I called it. Now I had a name for it. Flash TV, like Flash fiction. I think that's what I called it. And so I was trying to invent Flash TV, these 1 minute episodes that actually had an intro, a theme song, and an outro. So you really had like 30 seconds to do a scene. And so I did this 12-part series called The Kings of NoHo that was based on Happy Days and also based on Goodfellas and based on, I forget the name of it. Denzel did a movie where he was a doctor and he wanted to get his son a heart and he was going to kill himself to give his son his heart. I forget the name of that movie. It was based on those three. And just some really silly guys, this gang of guys in leather coats in the hot summer, walking around North Hollywood. Kind of fun. It was a comedy. And I actually had one of the directors of photography, one of the DPs of How to Get Away with Murder, shot it for me.
Oh, nice.
And the actor who played Biggie on the murders of Tupac and Biggie, Wavy Jones, played in the movie. So I had a royalty in the movie. And
Nice.
I mean, a little project. And, we had a lot of fun. It was cool. We shot it. It got a lot of views and stuff like that. I even, the first time I think I dropped it on Instagram, it got, like close to 200,000 views. And then I dropped it again and it got a little bit more than that. So, the first episode may have gotten about 179,000 views or something like that, 108,000 views. I was cool that people were able to see it.
Is it still available for viewing?
Yeah, you can go on Instagram and go on my page on at Nzondi 3 or either Ace Antonio Hall. Scroll through, you'll see it. It's there. Kings NoHo. I think I have about 6 episodes there, 6 or 7 episodes.
I'll be sure to put a link of that in the description of the podcast so people can find that really easy.
Cool. That's great. Thank you. It'd be great.
Since we are a podcast about books, we should probably talk about your book writing.
Yeah,
Now, you
yeah.
actually have won more than just the Bram Stoker Award. You were also nominated for an award for one of your short stories, The Raising Mary Frankenstein.
Wow, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. What was that? It was
Like 2016?
Predators and Editors, I think. I can't
Yeah,
even remember.
it
Was that it?
was
Yeah,
the annual Editors and Preditors reading poll.
yeah. Okay. That was a cool story. I've always been interested in Mary Shelley, and I've always loved Frankenstein. He was one of my first heroes. And so I wrote this really cool story, like a little YA story. I love that story so much. I was thinking recently about kind of rewriting it and seeing if I can get it reprinted again through another publication.
Well,
But
you
it's a
have
cool
some
story.
other short stories. Why not do an anthology?
I would love to do that. I would love for someone to publish an anthology. And I have a short story coming out. I mean, a fable coming out in this pretty cool anthology that I can't speak about yet because it hasn't been announced
Hmm.
this coming year. And that same editor for the anthology asked me to do another one for a follow-up anthology. Maybe I'll get that editor to do an anthology of all of my short stories. That'd be awesome. Wow, that'd be great.
I actually found that there is something that you and I have in common because doing my research about you, I found a quote where you had talked about that you have always been enamored by the darker side of things and that you
Yeah.
always loved watching the creature features on TV when you were young. That
Yes.
is something that I definitely remember from my childhood, staying up for the late, late show and
Hmm.
watching all of the old Universal Studio monster movies.
Oh man, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, all of those really cool. Yeah. Don't you or one of the people in your publishing family write a lot of Western books?
Yeah, the
Is that?
Stephen Burkhart name that I write under, it's a Western series.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow. That's cool. I used to be a big fan of, I haven't seen it in a long time, but Wild Wild West. Have you ever watched that?
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
loved that show.
What was the actor's name? Robert Conrad? Was it Robert Conrad?
Yes.
Something. It wasn't that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Dun. Yeah, we used to
That
run
was
home
like
and
such a
watch
great because it was almost like a Western mixed with sci-fi. It was so cool.
that. Yeah. What's the name? They call that. There's a name for that. That kind of sci-fi. One of
Like
my friends write
steampunk.
steampunk. Yeah, that was steampunk before we knew steampunk was steampunk, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Yeah.
you also mentioned one of my other favorite movies, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, that's one. Oh, that I think that was the catalyst for me writing. At least one of the catalysts for me writing. I used to love Abbott and Costello.
Hmm.
If you remember Joey Brown, those kind of movies growing up. Joey Brown would always do that yell, but Abbott and Costello. And then when I saw this movie that was like this mashup of two great funny guys that I used to watch all the time, and then the greatest, Frankenstein and
Hmm.
Dracula, and Dracula being a straight man in a comedy. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that was genius. It was great. Yeah, I want to do this kind of writing. I want to do stuff like this. It made me start drawing comic books and having characters in my comic books. So yeah, I love that movie. I
That
would
was one
watch
thing I
that movie.
was so excited when I saw that you were doing a comic book because I love comic books. I had a subscription to Thor comics when I was like in fifth grade.
What?
Oh, yeah. I
Oh,
have been reading comic books my entire life. I love comic books.
I might have to start calling you Diane Thunder. Wow, that is cool. Yeah, so I just had a meeting last week, and a publisher who I've worked with previously wants to take the book that I wrote called Oware Mosaic, which basically is a book about a 17-year-old girl who goes in the metaverse. She solves cold cases as a forensic investigator. And one of the cases actually from the metaverse happens in real life. And she actually thinks that she may have killed this girl. So she wants to try to prove her innocence, and she kind of recruits her brother. Her brother covers up all details connecting her to it, and she goes through trying to prove herself. So anyway, that book has now been written as pilot, and Dan Shaw Productions is shopping it to Hollywood, to get it picked up as a TV series called Feeney Zoe. And we got a pretty, he's bringing me in not as just a writer that's optioning the book, but as a co-producer.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah. So, we have a lot of people attached. We already have a DP attached and his whole camera crew. We have, first AD attached. We have 4 directors attached. We have a really cool actor who worked on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul attached.
Oh, I love those shows.
Yeah, so we have, and then we have some really cool producers, executive producers attached. It's just really all about getting it all together and getting to the next stage where we can shoot it, maybe do a proof of concept. Anyway, the pilot script was co-written by Kate Jones, Jonez, who also was a publisher for Oware Mosaic, and my last novel, Lipstick Asylum, which is a zombie novel. And so she came up with the idea. She said, "Hey, I want to make a graphic novel out of the script." And so we sat down and talked last week, and we're going to have a couple more meetings. And I just need to see. I was a big comic book collector too. I have a lot of comics that are still in great condition. I've been collecting since I was 8 years old, so it has to look right. I have, so I'm really interested to see what she comes up with. But if it works out, there'll be a graphic novel, a Feeney's graphic novel, as well as, a TV series. Let's keep our fingers crossed. You know how those things go.
Now, what about the teenage rock star? Is that
Ah,
already in comic book?
no, it is not. Teenage Rockstar is a song that was inspired by the novel that I'm writing now called Demons for Hire. That's the title for now, Demons for Hire. And Demons for Hire is a book about these teenagers who, when they're not traveling through the multiverse and solving supernatural crimes, are playing in their rock band. So Elle, the lead singer of the group, wrote a song called Teenage Rockstar. And so I said, I want to manifest this into real life. So I did the song, it's an alternative rock song. I produced the song, and I had the band play it. And I got Dave Moreno, who plays right now for the Puddle of Mud. He's a drummer for Puddle of Mud. He plays drums on it. And I recruited one of my homies, one of my homeboys from Queens, Fredro Starr, who's an iconic hip hop artist from the group Onyx. If you've ever heard of Slam, do do do, let boys be boys. Yeah, that's him. Him and his group Onyx. And so he got on the song. Him and I used to watch True Blood together. So he knows that it's like a vampire-esque story, although I never mentioned the word vampires in the story. So he wrote his lyrics, his rhyme, based on the fact that it's vampires. And Teenage Rockstar is really a song about a girl, a pop star, who, the industry is just sucking the life out of her like vampires. So, yeah, it's now on about 165 radio stations, which I'm surprised. It's not like a Taylor Swift song that's on 8,000 radio stations around the world. But, I'm happy it's on 163 radio stations, and it's growing. And so, we're happy with that. It's pretty cool.
Did you know that it's available as a soundtrack on TikTok? That you can
Wait,
add it to
what?
your videos on TikTok?
No, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, kudos to my distribution company for making that happen. Wow, I didn't know that.
Because whenever I made the little video promos for this episode that we're doing, I
Yeah.
checked and it was there.
What?
And I put the music in your promo.
Ah, Dianne Thunder. I love it. Thank you. You're a superhero. There is no hero without a her. So thank you.
I like that. That's good. Tell us a little bit more about Lipstick Asylum.
Yeah, Lipstick Asylum is a reimagining of the very first novel that I did that came out on Montauk Press called, what was it called? Silver Slasher. So Silver Slasher was this Hawaiian girl who kicked the zombie butt. She was a martial artist. And I wanted to do something different. So I took that character and changed the story and just developed the character a little bit more, gave it a lot more insight, and came up with Cozy Coleman. Cozy Coleman, this African-American girl from Brooklyn who got a big attitude and really has to navigate through her own flaws before she could really help save the world from a human extinction pandemic. And so basically, she's just trying to get over the death of her boyfriend, and she gets on a ship, and all of a sudden on the ship, everyone gets infected, and she narrowly escapes, and the person who rescued her is her boyfriend who had been missing or she thought dead for the last couple of years. And so together they go on a mission to try to figure out how to save the world. So it was a pretty cool book, and I was really happy to be able to do it. It was through Omnium Gathering Publishing. That one, Dan Shaw is also shopping to be on a TV series. He's just focusing on Phoenix first. So yeah, cool stuff.
The one thing that I really like about a lot of your work is you have these incredible young female lead characters who are strong. They're not stupid. They don't like trip and fall and wait for somebody to come save them. They're badass.
Ask me why.
Why do you have such strong female characters?
That's all I know. I grew up around all women. My mom and my sisters. My sister Carol basically raised me when mom was at work as a nurse, working 10, 15 hours a day, taking 3 buses back and forth to work. And then when I was 4 or 5 years old, my grandmother basically adopted me, came and took me to Jacksonville, Florida, and raised me. And she was 70 when she got me, and I was like 4 or 5 years old. And so all I've known, pretty much that's been around me are powerful women who had to just take care of their families, make a living. Like my grandmother taught, as she was a school teacher for over 40 years. When she retired or when she passed away, Channel 7 did like a little 7-minute documentary on her, ABC News. And so these are the women that raised me. And then as a teacher, I just have to champion the youth. It's just what just who I am. So I wanted to champion young female teenagers who have a lot of problems growing up, a lot of problems with their parents, a lot of problems with their peers, but somehow figure it out and still are strong enough to save the world. So yeah, that's pretty much what I write about.
That's amazing. I love that just underlying message. I mean, that's one of those things where you don't have to shove it in somebody's face. You just have to give the character the right motivation and give them the right actions. And the message comes across that these are strong female characters and you can be this way in life.
Yeah, yeah. I was at a little party, like a little outdoor kind of get together, barbecue type party. And we were talking about one of the characters from Star Trek, because I was with a lot of Trekkies. And I love Star Trek, the original series. I love Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, I think it was Discovery. And I think that's the one, because I'm not a Trekkie, so I could be wrong.
I am.
I think that's,
I'm a big Trekkie.
is that, what's her name? Sonequa?
Yeah.
Is the cat? Okay. Is this the star? So my Trekkie friend had a problem with her always crying almost every episode. And I'm like, that's what I love about female characters is that they can be powerful, kick your butt, and be vulnerable at the same time. And this dynamic characterization of showing that they can still have this human emotion and be very emotional, but at the same time be very stern. I just love that whole dynamic. But they thought that it weakened the character. I said, actually, to me, I feel like it strengthens the character. But
I think a lot of people just take it that there's such a perception that strong people don't cry. It's like that is wrong.
yeah, that is wrong. Yeah.
It's like usually the people who are afraid to be vulnerable don't cry in front of other people.
Right.
It takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable.
It does. It does. But, and then there's archetypes too. You're playing around with a lot of archetypes. So now we live in a world where you can really mix and match and, just do all kind of stuff to all the different archetypes and just mix them all up, and it's okay. You just got to write well. You got to write it well.
And that's the one thing that I do like about Discovery is they have broken a lot of the typical platforms for how they set up these kinds of shows. There's non-gender specific characters. There are gay characters. There are, people who are augmented. I mean, there's so many things in here that has never been done in a show like this before. And I absolutely love that. It's imaginative and it's also representative of people in the world.
Thank you, Dianne, for saying that. Yes. I was like the underdog at the meeting of Trekkies. I'm like, okay, everyone has their own opinion. Okay, I get it.
I would have had back on that. Totally.
Cool. Thank you. I have a house in New York, so I'm there for the past 3 years, I'm there like 6 months of the year. But this year I've been so busy in LA. I'll be leaving next month and I'll just be there for a couple of months. But usually when I'm in New York, that's my Trekkie time. and I just watch a lot of Star Trek. And so I'm looking forward to, when I get there next month. I have a lot to get through. Some of the newer ones I haven't gotten through yet. Is it Strange New Worlds? What is it?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so good. I love that
Yeah,
one.
I haven't even gotten. I think I saw the first episode, so I can't wait to start watching that.
We actually had to get another streaming service so that we could see that here in Germany.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, for my husband and I were like, yeah, it's worth it. We'll get it.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. That's gonna be cool.
What I love is
Yeah,
how many different people have now played James T. Kirk.
yeah, and you gotta play him right. Some people
Yeah.
play him. You gotta play him right. I'm a little biased. I like my
Yeah.
original. I think everyone who I've seen, in my opinion, who's played Spock, I think have nailed it.
Yeah.
They've nailed it.
And
So I'm
I
really
was
happy.
really impressed with Chris Pine.
Yeah,
I thought he did a great job as Kirk.
I do too. I think so. Yeah, I think so too.
I think we're going to go ahead and cut off the interview here for today, but please be sure to come back next Wednesday for the finale for my interview with Nzondi, also known as Ase Antonio Hall. He is just a multi-talented entertainer, musician, author, entrepreneur. I mean, seriously, there doesn't seem to be anything that this man can't do. And of course, he's also just really fun to talk to. So do yourself a favor, go into the description of today's podcast and check out his social media links. He's got some great images up on his Instagram. He's got all of his book information and music information on his website. You really need to check out his work. And don't forget to mark your calendars and come back next week for part 2 of my conversation with Nzondi. You're going to love it. And if you haven't already done it, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, and that way you will never miss an episode with any of these fantastic authors that we have coming on in Season 2 of Book Banter with Diane Burkhart. So now you know what time it is, people. It's time for you to go forth and be happy.